The contract sat between them like a loaded gun. Victoria Hale, CEO of a billion-dollar empire, didn't blink as she slid the document across her glass desk. Ethan Cole stared at the number, more money than he'd see in 10 lifetimes, then at the woman who'd just proposed they share a bed for the next 12 months. "You're serious," he said, voice hollow. She met his eyes with the same cold precision that had built her fortune. Completely. Outside her 72nd floor window, the city glittered with indifference. Inside, a struggling janitor and an untouchable executive stood at the edge of a deal that would destroy them both. If you want to see how far desperation can push two people and whether anything real can survive a lie this big, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in the basement maintenance corridor had been flickering for 3 days. Ethan Cole made a mental note to replace them, again, as he pushed his cleaning cart past the boiler room. The wheels squeaked in rhythm with his thoughts. Rent due Thursday. Lily's school trip Friday. Car payment next week. The math never worked. It hadn't worked since Sarah died. "Cole! Executive floor, now!" Ethan turned to find Frank Martinez, the facilities supervisor, looking uncomfortable in a way that made Ethan's stomach drop. Frank was a good guy who'd bent the rules to let Ethan pick up extra shifts. That kind of discomfort meant bad news. "What's going on?" "Don't know. HR called down. They want you upstairs in 15 minutes. Frank shifted his weight. "Look, whatever this is, you got a backup plan?" Ethan's hands tightened on the cart handle. "That kind of meeting? I've worked here 12 years. Maintenance guys don't get called to 72 unless they're getting walked out." The elevator ride up took 90 seconds. Ethan spent them cataloging his options. The savings account had $400. Lily's medication alone cost $350 a month. His sister Jenny had helped after Sarah died, but she had 3 kids of her own. His parents would take them in, but that meant moving Lily across the country, away from her school, her friends, the grave where she went to talk to her mother every Sunday. The executive floor smelled different, cleaner, like money had a scent all its own. "Mr. Cole?" A woman in a sharp black suit appeared beside him. "I'm Claire Donovan, Ms. Hale's executive assistant. Please follow me." Ethan had cleaned this floor 100 times, always after midnight when the offices were empty. Walking through it during business hours felt like trespassing. Men and women in $1,000 suits moved with purpose through glass-walled offices. No one looked at him. He was furniture. Claire stopped at a set of double doors. "Ms. Hale will see you now." The office was the size of Ethan's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view that made the city look like a toy. Victoria Hale stood at those windows, silhouetted against the skyline, perfectly still. "Mr. Cole, sit." It wasn't a request. Ethan lowered himself into a leather chair that probably cost more than his car. Victoria turned, and he got his first real look at his boss's boss's boss. She was younger than he'd expected, late 30s maybe. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, emphasizing sharp cheekbones and eyes that assessed him like a balance sheet. Everything about her was controlled, her posture, her expression, the precise way she moved around her desk. "You've worked here for 18 months, she said. "Facilities, maintenance, night shift." "Yes, ma'am." "Before that, you were an accountant. 8 years at Morrison and Fletcher, CPA. You left 6 months after your wife passed away." Ethan's jaw tightened. "If this is about performance, your work is adequate." Victoria sat, folding her hands on the desk. "I'm not here to discuss your job performance. I'm here to discuss a different kind of employment opportunity. I'm not interested in changing shifts. I need a husband." The words hung in the air like smoke. Ethan stared at her, waiting for the punchline. Victoria's expression didn't change. "Excuse me?" "A husband. For 1 year. The position pays $3 million. Ethan's laugh came out strangled. "This is a joke." "I don't joke about business, Mr. Cole. And make no mistake, this would be a business arrangement." She opened a leather folder, revealing a document dense with legal text. "My father founded Hale Industries 40 years ago. When he died, he left controlling interest split between myself and my brother Marcus. 60% to me, 40% to him. But there was a condition. She slid a highlighted section across the desk. Ethan read it twice, not quite believing the words. He required you to be married? My father was traditional. He believed a married woman was more stable, more trustworthy, more likely to produce heirs to continue the family legacy. Victoria's voice was ice. If I remain unmarried past my 40th birthday, which is in 6 weeks, my shares transfer to Marcus. He'll have controlling interest. I'll be removed as CEO. So get married. Ethan caught himself. Rich? Powerful? Yes, Mr. Cole. I'm both. I'm also aware that every man I've dated in the last 5 years has been carefully positioned in my orbit by Marcus. Business associates, family friends, men who would give him exactly what he wants, access to my shares through divorce proceedings. She stood, moving back to the windows. I need someone Marcus can't touch. Someone with no connections to my world. Someone who needs the money badly enough to honor the contract, but who has too much to lose by crossing me. Someone you can control. Yes. The honesty was almost refreshing. Ethan leaned back in the chair, mind racing. Why me? I had my team research every employee in this building. I needed someone intelligent enough to handle the scrutiny, desperate enough to take the deal, and trustworthy enough not to become a liability. She turned to face him. You were an accountant. You understand contracts and discretion. You're a single father with mounting debts and no prospects for advancement. Your performance reviews indicate you're reliable and professional, and you have a daughter who depends on you. The mention of Lily made something twist in Ethan's chest. Leave my daughter out of this. I'm afraid that's impossible. The marriage needs to appear legitimate. That means family dinners, public appearances, school events. Your daughter will be part of the performance. Absolutely not, Mr. Cole. Victoria's voice cut through his objection. I'm offering you $3 million, enough to pay off every debt you have, enough to secure your daughter's future, college, medical care, whatever she needs, enough to never worry about rent or groceries or whether you'll still have a job tomorrow. She paused. All I'm asking for is 1 year of your time. Ethan stood. You're asking me to lie to everyone I know, to drag my 8-year-old daughter into some kind of corporate fraud. It's not fraud. The marriage will be legal. The prenuptial agreement will be ironclad. You'll live in my home, attend events as my husband, and maintain the appearance of a genuine relationship. In exchange, you receive compensation and the security of knowing your daughter will never want for anything. And at the end of the year? We divorce quietly. You receive your payment in full. You're free to do whatever you wish with your life. Well, Victoria returned to her desk, pulling out another document. This is the contract. I'll give you 24 hours to review it and consult with legal counsel if you choose. I can't afford a lawyer. I'll provide one. An independent attorney, not connected to Hale Industries. His fees are already covered. Ethan looked at the contract, easily 100 pages of dense legal language. What about, this would be a real marriage. What are the expectations? We'll maintain separate bedrooms. Physical intimacy is not required or expected. In public, we'll need to appear affectionate, appropriate touching, occasional displays of closeness, nothing that would make you uncomfortable. And if people ask questions, if Marcus investigates, let him investigate. The marriage will be legitimate. Your background check is clean. You have no criminal record, no history of substance abuse, no red flags that would suggest this is anything other than what it appears to be. A working-class man who met a successful woman and found unexpected connection. You've really thought this through. I've spent 6 months planning this. Victoria's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something raw beneath. I built this company from what my father left behind. I grew revenue by 300%. I led us through market crashes and hostile takeover attempts. I will not lose everything because of an archaic clause written by a man who thought women needed husbands to make sound decisions. The bitterness in her voice was real. For the first time, Ethan saw past the cold executive to the woman fighting for survival. I need to think about this. Of course, let's take the contract, review it. The attorney's contact information is on the first page. Call him tonight if you'd like to discuss terms. Victoria extended her hand. I'll need your answer by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Her handshake was firm, professional. As Ethan turned to leave, her voice stopped him. Mr. Cole, One more thing. He looked back. Victoria was watching him with an intensity that made him feel exposed. If you agree to this, I need absolute discretion. My brother is ruthless and well-connected. If he discovers the truth, he'll use it to destroy both of us. Can I trust you to keep this secret? Ethan thought about Lily, about the mountain of medical bills from Sarah's cancer treatment, about the nights he'd laid awake doing math that never balanced. If I do this, he said slowly, what happens to my job? You'll resign from facilities. Effective immediately, you'll be listed as a private consultant. It provides cover for why you're suddenly in my life. The salary for that position is already more than you make now. And when we divorce? You'll receive a severance package sufficient to live comfortably while you decide what comes next, plus the full $3 million, as agreed. Ethan looked at the contract in his hands, feeling the weight of pages that could change everything. I'll give you my answer tomorrow. The apartment was dark when Ethan got home. Jenny was on the couch, her laptop casting blue light across her tired face. How's Lily? Ethan dropped his keys in the bowl by the door. Asleep since 8. She had a good day. Ate all her dinner, did her homework without being asked. Jenny closed the laptop. How was work? Interesting. Ethan set the contract on the kitchen counter, far from his sister's curious eyes. You need to get home to the kids? Jake's got them. I told him I'd wait until you got back. She stood, stretching. You look weird. What happened? Ethan wanted to tell her. Jenny had been his anchor since Sarah died, the person who showed up with groceries when the checking account hit zero, who took Lily to doctor's appointments when Ethan's shifts ran long. But Victoria's words echoed, absolute discretion. Just a long day. Go home. I'll see you tomorrow. Jenny studied him with the X-ray vision only sisters possessed. Ethan, I'm fine. Promise. After she left, Ethan stood in the kitchen of his rundown apartment and looked around. The refrigerator that hummed too loud. The water stain on the ceiling from the upstairs neighbor's broken pipe. The stack of bills on the counter marked final notice in red. He opened Lily's door quietly. His daughter slept curled around her stuffed elephant, the one Sarah had given her the day she was born. In the dim light from the hallway, she looked so small, so fragile. 8 years old, and she'd already lost so much. Ethan thought about Victoria Hale's office, about windows that overlooked the city like a kingdom, about the casual way she'd offered more money than he'd earn in a lifetime of scrubbing floors. He thought about trust funds and college tuition and never having to choose between medication and groceries. He pulled out his phone and dialed the number on the contract's first page. Davidson Law. This is Robert Davidson. Mr. Davidson, my name is Ethan Cole. Victoria Hale gave me your contact information. I need legal counsel. The attorney's office was in a building nicer than anywhere Ethan had ever worked. Robert Davidson was in his 60s with kind eyes and the careful manner of someone who'd negotiated hundreds of deals. Mr. Cole, thank you for coming in. They shook hands. I've reviewed the contract Ms. Hale prepared. I assume you have questions? Is this legal? Completely. Marriage contracts are common among high net worth individuals. This one is particularly detailed, but everything here is enforceable under California law. What are the risks? Davidson flipped to a marked section. The primary risk is breach of contract. If you violate the terms, discuss the arrangement publicly, engage in infidelity, fail to maintain the agreed-upon appearances, you forfeit the payment and could be liable for damages. Ms. Hale has built in significant penalties for breach. And for her? The same. If she fails to provide the agreed-upon compensation, housing, or terminates the arrangement without cause, she's liable to you for the full amount plus damages. Davidson looked up. This is a fair contract, Mr. Cole. Stricter than most prenuptial agreements, but fair. Both parties have clear obligations and protections. What about custody? If something happens to me, there's a clause here addressing that. In the event of your death or incapacitation during the contract term, your daughter's guardianship defaults to your designated person. I assume that's your sister Jennifer Cole? Yes. Ms. Hale has no claim to custody. Additionally, the full payment would be released to your estate immediately. Davidson paused. Mr. Cole, I've represented many clients in unusual circumstances. This is certainly unique, but I've seen nothing that suggests Ms. Hale is trying to take advantage of you. If anything, she's given you more protection than most people in your position would receive. Ethan stared at the contract. Why would she do that? Because she needs this to work. If you have doubts about the arrangement, if you feel exploited or trapped, you might break the contract. She's making sure you have every reason to honor your commitment. So I'm locked in for a year. You can terminate at any time, but you'd forfeit the payment and potentially face penalties for breach. Davidson leaned forward. Mr. Cole, I need to ask you something directly. Can you do this? Can you live with this woman, play the role of her husband, and maintain the deception for 12 months? Ethan thought about the question, really thought about it. I don't know. That's an honest answer. Let me give you some advice, off the record. Davidson removed his glasses. I've watched people destroy themselves chasing money. I've also watched people destroy themselves from lack of it. This offer, it's not just about wealth. It's about security. It's about giving your daughter a future you can't provide on your own. He paused. But it's also about becoming someone else for a year, living a lie. That takes a toll. What would you do? Davidson smiled sadly. I'd probably take the deal. But I've been married 30 years, Mr. Cole. I know what it's like to live with someone. The little compromises, the daily friction, the moments when you want to walk away. This arrangement has all of that, plus the added pressure of performance and deception. He slid a business card across the desk. If you sign this contract and you need someone to talk to, someone bound by attorney-client privilege who can't reveal your secret, call me. Anytime. Ethan pocketed the card. Thank you. One last thing. Your daughter. What about her? Ms. Hale wants her to be part of this performance. School events, family dinners, public appearances. You need to decide if you can ask your daughter to lie. Because that's what you'll be doing, teaching her that deception is acceptable when the price is right. The words hit like a punch. Ethan stood abruptly. I need to go. Think carefully, Mr. Cole. Whatever you decide, make sure you can live with it. Quote, Lily was at Jenny's house when Ethan picked her up that evening. She ran to him the way she always did, all flying hair and bright smile, and his heart cracked a little. Daddy, Aunt Jenny let me help make cookies. Did she? Ethan lifted her up, breathing in the scent of vanilla and childhood. Were they good? The best. Can we make cookies at home? Maybe this weekend. He set her down, catching Jenny's questioning look. Say thank you to your aunt. In the car, Lily chattered about her day. The butterfly they saw at recess, the math test she thought she did well on, the new girl who sat alone at lunch. Ethan listened with half his attention, the other half consumed by the contract sitting in his passenger seat. Daddy? You're quiet. He glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Sorry, sweetheart, just thinking about work. Do you like your work? The question surprised him. Why do you ask? You always look sad when you come home. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I'm not sad, just tired. Mommy used to say tired and sad look the same sometimes. Sarah. Everything came back to Sarah, the way she'd known him better than he knew himself, the way she'd made him promise in those final weeks that he'd give Lily a good life, that he wouldn't just survive, but actually live. What if something changed, he asked carefully. What if Daddy's work was different? Different how? Just different. Better pay. Different hours. Would that be okay? Lily thought about it with the seriousness only 8-year-olds could muster. Would I still go to my school? Yes. Would I still see Aunt Jenny? Of course. Then it's okay. She went back to looking out the window. As long as we're together. As long as we're together. The words echoed in Ethan's mind as he pulled into their apartment complex, as he helped Lily with her bath, as he read her bedtime story about a princess who saved herself. After she fell asleep, Ethan sat at the kitchen table with the contract and a beer. He read through every page, every clause, every carefully worded protection and penalty. It was past midnight when he finally picked up his phone. Mr. Cole? Victoria Hale's voice was crisp despite the late hour. Do you have an answer? Ethan took a breath. I have questions. Ask them. My daughter, she can't know this is fake. Silence on the other end. Then, agreed. We'll tell her the truth is simpler, that we met, connected, and decided to build a life together. Children accept what they're shown. She's smart. She'll ask questions. Then we'll answer them together. Mr. Cole, I'm not asking you to traumatize your daughter. I'm asking you to provide her with stability and security. We can do that without making her complicit in deception. And when we divorce, we'll tell her the truth, that sometimes relationships don't work out. She's already experienced loss. She'll understand. The casual way Victoria dismissed his daughter's potential pain made Ethan's jaw clench. You don't know her. You're right, I don't. But I know what it's like to grow up watching a parent struggle. I know what it's like to see them make impossible choices because there's no good option. Her voice softened fractionally. I'm offering you a way out, Mr. Cole. For both of you. Ethan looked around his kitchen, the peeling linoleum, the cabinets that didn't close right, the window that let in a draft no matter how much weather stripping he added. He thought about Lily's face when he'd told her they couldn't afford the school trip to the science museum. The way she'd said, "It's okay, Daddy," with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. He thought about Sarah, about promises made in hospital rooms, about the future he wanted to give their daughter. I need you to promise me something, he said. What? That no matter what happens between us, you won't hurt my daughter. She's off limits. Whatever corporate war you're fighting with your brother, she doesn't become collateral damage. You have my word. And I need time to prepare her. A week before this starts. I need to explain things in a way she can understand. We have 6 weeks before my birthday. I can give you 1 week to transition, but then we need to move forward quickly. The wedding needs to happen before the deadline. Wedding. The word made it real in a way the contract hadn't. Okay. Is that a yes, Mr. Cole? Ethan closed his eyes. Yes. I'll do it. Good. Come to my office tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring your daughter. We should meet before we proceed. Wait. But she'd already hung up. Ethan sat in the silence of his apartment, wondering what he'd just agreed to, wondering if he'd just saved his daughter's future or sold it. The contract sat in front of him, pages and pages of legal binding that would tie him to Victoria Hale for the next 12 months. He signed his name at the bottom, the pen scratching across paper like a verdict. Outside, the city hummed with its usual indifference. Somewhere up there, in a tower made of glass and steel, Victoria Hale was probably still awake, planning her next move in a game Ethan barely understood. He had just become a piece on her board. The question was whether he'd survive being played. Morning came too quickly. Ethan stood outside Lily's bedroom door at 7 a.m., rehearsing words that refused to sound right. How did you tell an 8-year-old that everything was about to change? That the father who'd barely kept their lives glued together had just made a deal that felt like selling his soul? He knocked softly. Lily, we need to talk, sweetheart. She was already awake, sitting cross-legged on her bed with the stuffed elephant in her lap. Are we in trouble? No, why would you think that? You have your serious face. She studied him with Sarah's eyes, that same way of seeing straight through him. Did something bad happen? Ethan sat on the edge of her bed, choosing his words carefully. Something changed. Something good, I think. But it's going to be different. He took her hand. Do you remember when Mommy got sick and I had to work different hours? And we had to move to this apartment? Lily nodded solemnly. Well, I got a new job, a really good one. And it means we're going to have more money. Enough money so you don't have to worry about things anymore. I don't worry about money. That's your job. The simple statement broke something in his chest. I know, baby, but you shouldn't have to think about it at all, and now you won't have to. What's the new job? This was it, the first lie. I'm going to work with someone very important. Her name is Victoria. She runs a big company and she needs help with special projects. Is she nice? Ethan thought about cold eyes and calculated offers. She's professional, but I think she's fair. Do I have to meet her? Actually, yes, this morning. We're going to her office. He squeezed Lily's hand. I need you to be on your best behavior, okay? This is really important. Lily's face brightened with the excitement of something new. Can I wear my blue dress, the one Aunt Jenny got me? Sure, sweetheart. Whatever you want. 2 hours later, they stood in the lobby of Hale Industries. Lily's hand was small in his, her eyes wide as she took in the marble floors and the fountain that dominated the atrium. Security guards in crisp uniforms moved with purpose. Women in designer suits click-clacked across the polished stone. Daddy, this place is fancy. It is. Ethan approached the security desk. Ethan Cole. I have an appointment with Ms. Hale. The guard checked his computer, then handed over 2 visitor badges. 72nd floor, Ms. Donovan will meet you at the elevator. The ride-up was silent, except for Lily's quiet, wow, when the elevator's glass walls revealed the city dropping away beneath them. Ethan's stomach twisted with each passing floor. What was he doing bringing his daughter into this? Claire Donovan was waiting when the doors opened. Her smile was professional, but not unkind. Mr. Cole? And you must be Lily. How did you know my name? Lily asked. Ms. Hale told me. She's looking forward to meeting you. Claire led them down the hallway. Your father tells me you like science? Lily's face lit up. I love science, especially space stuff. Did you know that Jupiter has 67 moons? I didn't know that. That's fascinating. They reached the double doors. Claire knocked once, then opened them. Ms. Hale? The Coles are here. Victoria stood at her desk, and Ethan saw her through Lily's eyes, tall, elegant, intimidating in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than their monthly rent. But then Victoria did something unexpected. She smiled. It wasn't the corporate smile Ethan had seen yesterday. It was softer, more genuine, and it transformed her entire face. Hello, Lily. I'm Victoria. She came around the desk, kneeling to Lily's height. Your father has told me wonderful things about you. Lily looked at Ethan, then back to Victoria. He didn't tell me anything about you. Victoria's laugh was surprised and real. That's fair. What would you like to know? Do you really own this whole building? My company does, but I like to think we share it with all the people who work here. That's a lot of people to share with. It is. Victoria glanced at Ethan, something flickering in her eyes. Would you like to see the view? She led Lily to the windows. Ethan watched his daughter press her hands against the glass, heard her delighted gasp as she looked down at the city stretched out like a map. We're so high up. I can see our apartment building. Well, I think I can. Everything looks like toys. It does, doesn't it? Victoria stood beside her, and for a moment Ethan saw something unguarded in her expression. When I was your age, my father brought me to his office. Not this building, a smaller one. But I remember standing at the window just like this, thinking I could see the whole world. Could you? Not nearly as much as I thought. Victoria's smile turned wistful. But it's a good place to dream. Ethan watched them, the powerful CEO and his daughter, and felt the ground shift beneath him. This wasn't the cold businesswoman from yesterday. This was someone else entirely. Lily, Victoria said gently, I need to talk to your father about some grown-up things. Would you mind sitting with Claire for a few minutes? I think she has some coloring books in her office. I'm kind of old for coloring books. What about puzzles? Claire loves puzzles. Lily considered this. What kind of puzzles? The 1,000-piece kind. Very challenging. Okay. Lily looked at Ethan. Is it okay, Daddy? It's fine. I'll be right here. After Claire led Lily away, the office fell into silence. Victoria moved back to her desk, the warmth from moments ago disappearing like a mask removed. She's lovely, Victoria said. Smart? Observant? She's everything. Ethan stayed by the windows. You were good with her. I like children. They're honest in ways adults have forgotten how to be. She pulled out a folder. I've prepared some documents for you to sign. Banking information, power of attorney for medical decisions while you're living in my home, insurance policies. Insurance policies? Life insurance. $2 million with Lily as the beneficiary. If something happens to you during our arrangement, she's protected. The casual generosity stunned him. That's not in the contract. Consider it an addendum. Your daughter's security matters. Victoria's tone was matter-of-fact, as if she handed out million-dollar life insurance policies every day. Now, we need to discuss logistics. The wedding will be in 4 weeks. Small ceremony, immediate family only. I'll handle all arrangements. 4 weeks? That's necessary. We need to be married before my birthday, which gives us minimal time to establish the relationship publicly. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through a calendar. This weekend we'll have dinner with your family. You'll introduce me as your girlfriend. Next week we announce our engagement. 2 weeks to plan the wedding, then the ceremony itself. Ethan's head spun. My family will have questions. They'll think this is insane. Then convince them it's not. Tell them we met months ago and kept it private. Tell them it's been a whirlwind romance. Tell them whatever you need to, but make them believe it. Victoria's eyes locked on his. This only works if everyone, including your sister, believes we're genuine. You want me to lie to Jenny. I want you to protect both of us. Your sister seems like a perceptive woman. If she suspects the truth, she might say something to the wrong person. We can't risk that. Ethan thought about Jenny, about the way she'd supported him through Sarah's death, through the desperate months after. She deserves the truth. She deserves what keeps her safe, like, Miss Cole, my brother has private investigators, lawyers, connections throughout the city. If he catches even a whisper that this marriage is fraudulent, he'll use it to destroy me, and you'll be caught in the crossfire. Victoria stood, moving to stand directly in front of him. I know this is difficult. I know I'm asking you to betray the trust of people you love, but this is the price of the deal we made. The deal you offered. The deal you accepted. Her voice softened fractionally. I'm not trying to hurt you or your family. I'm trying to survive. Can you understand that? Looking into her eyes, Ethan saw something he recognized. The same desperate calculation he'd made 1,000 times since Sarah died. The same impossible math of choosing between bad options and worse ones. Yeah, he said quietly. I understand. Good. Victoria handed him a key card. This is for the penthouse. 2,200 square feet, 3 bedrooms. You and Lily will move in this weekend. I've already arranged for movers. This weekend? That's too fast. It has to be fast. We need to establish cohabitation immediately. She pulled out another document. I've also enrolled Lily in Whitmore Academy. It's a private school, excellent academic program, small class sizes. She starts next Monday. Wait, you can't just change her school. Her current school is 40 minutes from the penthouse. Whitmore is 6 blocks away. The transition makes sense logistically, and it's a significant upgrade in terms of education. Ethan's hands clenched. You should have asked me first. You're right. I apologize. Victoria's tone didn't change, but something in her posture shifted. If you prefer to keep her at her current school, we'll make it work. I overstepped. The admission surprised him. Why would you do that? Do what? Apologize. Back down. Victoria studied him for a long moment. Because you were right. She's your daughter, and major decisions about her life should involve you. I'm accustomed to making unilateral decisions. It's a professional hazard. You mean you're used to getting your way? Yes. No defensiveness, just fact. But this arrangement requires partnership, not dictatorship. I'm willing to adjust. Ethan pulled out a chair and sat, suddenly exhausted. Tell me about the school. What makes it so good? For the next 20 minutes, Victoria outlined Whitmore Academy's curriculum, its faculty, its resources. She pulled up the website, showed him classroom photos, explained their approach to education. Despite himself, Ethan was impressed. They have a STEM program specifically for elementary students, Victoria said. Given Lily's interest in science, she'd thrive there. It probably costs a fortune. Tuition is already paid. She can start Monday, or she can stay at her current school. Your choice. Ethan thought about Lily's face when she talked about the science museum, about the underfunded public school where class sizes kept growing and art programs kept disappearing. Let me talk to her, he said. If she wants to try it, we'll make the switch. Fair enough. Victoria glanced at her watch. Well, we should bring her back. I'd like to show her the apartment before you leave. The penthouse was on the building's top floor, accessed by a private elevator that required the key card to operate. When the doors opened directly into the living room, Lily's gasp was audible. Daddy, this is bigger than our whole building. It might have been an exaggeration, but not by much. Floor-to-ceiling windows lined two walls, offering panoramic views of the city. The furniture was modern and elegant, all clean lines and expensive materials. The kitchen had marble countertops and appliances that looked like they belonged in a restaurant. "This is where we'll be living," Ethan said, watching Lily's face. "What do you think?" "It's like a castle." She spun in a circle. "Can I see my room?" Victoria led her down a hallway. "We have a few options. This one faces east, so you get morning sunlight." Ethan followed them through rooms that seemed pulled from a magazine. Victoria narrated features: the master bedroom with its ensuite bathroom, the guest room, the study lined with bookshelves. When they reached the third bedroom, she paused. "I thought Lily might like this one. It has the best view and there's space for a reading nook by the window." The room was painted a soft blue gray, empty except for built-in shelves and a window seat overlooking the city. Lily ran to the window, pressing her face against the glass. "I can see the park and the museum. Daddy, look!" Ethan stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. "It's pretty amazing, isn't it? Can I really have this room?" "If you want it." Lily turned to Victoria with sudden solemnity. "Thank you for letting us live here. This is the nicest place I've ever seen." Something flickered across Victoria's face. Surprise, maybe, or something softer. "You're welcome, Lily. I hope you'll be happy here." "Are you going to live here too?" "I already do. This is my home." Lily processed this information with the careful logic of childhood. "So we're all going to live together? Like a family?" The question hung in the air. Ethan felt Victoria's eyes on him, waiting for his response. "Yes," he said, the word feeling like a stone in his throat. "Like a family." That night, back in their apartment, Ethan helped Lily pack while she chattered about her new room, the view, the fancy kitchen. She was too excited to notice his silence, too young to understand the weight of what they were about to do. "Daddy, will I make friends at the new school?" "I think so. You're good at making friends." "What if they don't like me?" Ethan knelt beside her, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Then they're missing out on knowing an amazing kid. But I think they will like you. How could they not?" "Will you still read to me at bedtime?" "Every night, that's a promise." Lily wrapped her arms around his neck, holding on tight. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything in the world." His phone buzzed. A text from Jenny. "Dinner tomorrow night. Haven't seen you guys all week." Ethan stared at the message, then typed, "Actually, I need to talk to you about something. Can you come by tomorrow afternoon?" The response was immediate. "You're scaring me." "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine. Better than fine, just a lot to explain." "I'll be there at 2. Ethan set down the phone, looking around the apartment that had been their home for 2 years. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. In 48 hours, they'd be living in a penthouse with a woman he barely knew, playing roles in a performance that would last a year. He thought about Victoria's face when she'd knelt to meet Lily, the unexpected warmth, the genuine smile. Then he thought about the cold precision with which she'd planned every detail of their arrangement. Which version was real? Or were they both masks, just different ones for different audiences? Jenny arrived at 2 p.m. sharp, bearing coffee and the suspicious expression of someone who knew they were about to hear something crazy. "Okay, spill. What's going on?" Ethan had rehearsed this conversation a dozen times. It still felt impossible. "I met someone." Jenny's eyes widened. "You what?" "I met someone. A woman. Her name is Victoria." "Ethan, that's wonderful." Jenny pulled him into a hug. "When? How? Why didn't you tell me?" "It happened fast, really fast. And I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure if it was real, if it would last." He pulled back, meeting her eyes. "But it's real, Jen. And it's serious." "How serious are we talking?" "I'm moving in with her, this weekend." Jenny's smile froze. "This weekend? Ethan, you just said you met her. When exactly did this happen?" "A few months ago. We've been taking it slow, keeping it private. She's someone important, high profile. We wanted to make sure before we went public." "Important how?" "She runs a company, a big one. Hale Industries. Jenny's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Hale Industries. As in the Hale Industries? The billion-dollar... Ethan, are you serious? Completely serious. And she wants you to move in with her. Into what? Some mansion? Penthouse, downtown, 2,200 square feet. Jenny set down her coffee very carefully. Okay, I need you to slow down and explain this from the beginning, because right now this sounds like either the best thing that's ever happened to you or a complete disaster waiting to happen. Ethan told her the story he'd prepared. They'd met when he was called to fix something in her office. She'd been kind to him. They'd started talking, discovered an unexpected connection. Coffee turned into dinner, dinner into long conversations about life and loss and raising kids. She understood what it was like to lose a parent young. Her father had died a few years ago. She appreciated Ethan's dedication to Lily, his work ethic, his honesty. It wasn't entirely a lie, just a framework of truth wrapped around a core of deception. Jenny listened without interrupting, but her expression grew more skeptical with each sentence. When Ethan finished, she sat back and studied him. Does Lily know? She met Victoria this morning. They got along well. And Victoria's okay with the whole package? Single dad, 8-year-old daughter, all the complications that come with that? She says she is. Ethan. Jenny reached across the table, taking his hand. I want you to be happy. God knows you deserve it after everything with Sarah, but this is fast, really fast. Are you sure you're thinking clearly? I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like a fairy tale. Poor janitor meets billionaire CEO, falls in love, lives happily ever after. That's not real life. Maybe it is this time. Jenny's eyes searched his face. What aren't you telling me? Ethan's heart stopped. What do you mean? I've known you your whole life. I can tell when you're holding something back. She squeezed his hand. Is she pressuring you? Is this about money? No, I mean, yes, there's a financial component. She's helping me get back on my feet, paying off some debts. But that's not why I'm doing this. Then why are you? The question cut to the bone. Why was he doing this? For Lily, he told himself, for her future, her education, her security. But sitting across from his sister, lying to her face, Ethan wondered if he was really just choosing the easier kind of suffering. Because I'm tired, Jen. I'm tired of barely making it. I'm tired of watching Lily go without things because I can't afford them. I'm tired of counting pennies and still coming up short. He pulled his hand back. Victoria's offering me a chance at something better. Maybe it's fast, maybe it's crazy, but it's real, and I'm taking it. Jenny's expression softened. Okay. If you're sure, then I'm behind you. But I want to meet her, properly. Not just a quick hello. I want to have dinner, talk to her, make sure she's good enough for my brother. She wants to meet you too, tomorrow night, if you're free. Tomorrow, Jenny laughed. You really aren't wasting time, are you? We've wasted enough time already. The lie tasted bitter. But Jenny smiled, pulling him into another hug, and Ethan let himself pretend for just a moment that this was real, that he'd found happiness instead of selling it. The next evening, they gathered at a restaurant Victoria had chosen, upscale but not ostentatious, the kind of place where privacy was guaranteed and the waitstaff moved like ghosts. Jenny arrived 15 minutes early, wearing her best dress and the protective expression of a sister about to interrogate her brother's new girlfriend. Victoria was already there, seated at a corner table, somehow making the simple act of reading a menu look elegant. She stood when they approached, extending her hand. You must be Jennifer. Ethan's told me so much about you. All good things, I hope. Jenny shook her hand, and Ethan watched two strong-willed women size each other up. The best. He says you're the person who kept his life together after Sarah passed. The mention of Sarah, casual, respectful, seemed to soften Jenny's guard slightly. Someone had to. He's terrible at asking for help. I've noticed that, Victoria smiled. It's one of the things I admire about him. They sat. Lily was at home with a babysitter Victoria had arranged, which meant this was purely adult conversation. Ethan braced himself. So, Jenny said once they'd ordered, Ethan tells me you run Hale Industries. That must be demanding. It is, but I've learned to balance work and personal life. Have you? Because I've read about you. The articles call you ruthless. They say you work 80-hour weeks and fire people without blinking. Victoria didn't flinch. The articles aren't entirely wrong. I am demanding, both of myself and others. But ruthless? That's a word people use for women who refuse to apologize for their success. Fair point. Jenny sipped her wine. What made you interested in Ethan? No offense, but you two come from very different worlds. That's exactly what made me interested. Ethan doesn't care about my money or my position. He sees me as a person, not a title. Victoria glanced at Ethan. In my world, that's rare. And you don't mind that he has a daughter? Why would I mind? Lily's wonderful. Because dating a single parent is complicated. There are custody arrangements, school schedules, a whole other person's needs to consider. Jenny leaned forward. I need to know you understand what you're signing up for. I understand completely. Victoria's voice was steady. I'm not looking for easy, Jennifer. I'm looking for real. And what Ethan and I have, what we're building, that's real. The conversation continued through dinner. Jenny asked pointed questions about Victoria's family, her history, her intentions. Victoria answered with a mix of honesty and careful omission that would have impressed a politician. By dessert, Jenny's skepticism had shifted to cautious acceptance. Okay, she said finally, I can see why my brother likes you. You're smart, you're direct, and you actually seem to care about him. I do care about him. Good, because if you hurt him or Lily, you'll have to deal with me, and I'm a lot meaner than I look. Victoria's smile was genuine. I believe you, and I promise I have no intention of hurting them. After dinner, in the car ride home, Ethan felt the tension drain from his shoulders. You were amazing. Your sister is protective. It's admirable. She liked you. She's reserving judgment. There's a difference. Victoria looked out the window. But I think we passed the first test. How many more are there? With family, always one more. She turned to him. This weekend, we move you into the penthouse. Monday, we announce our engagement. Are you ready? Ethan thought about the contract, about the year ahead, about the lies they'd tell and the roles they'd play. No, but I don't think that matters anymore. It doesn't. Victoria's hand briefly touched his. We're committed now. For better or worse. The words echoed like wedding vows. In 3 weeks they would be. And Ethan still wasn't sure if he'd made the best decision of his life or the worst. But the die was cast. The performance had begun, and there was no going back. The penthouse felt different at night. Ethan stood at the living room window, watching the city lights blur into constellations, trying to remember what normal felt like. It had been 3 days since the move, and everything still had the sharp edges of unfamiliarity. Lily was asleep in her new bedroom, dreaming in a space larger than their entire old apartment. Victoria was in her study, working late as she apparently always did. And Ethan was caught between two worlds, belonging to neither. His phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. Come to my study. We need to talk. He found her surrounded by papers, her jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up. She looked exhausted in a way that made her seem almost human. Sit, she said, pushing a folder across the desk. We announce the engagement tomorrow. I need you to review the press release. Ethan scanned the document. The language was carefully crafted, vague enough to avoid scrutiny, specific enough to seem genuine. They'd met through work. Connection was immediate. Relationship developed naturally over several months. Victoria's PR team had woven truth and fiction into something that read like a romance novel. It's good, he said. Believable. That's the point. Victoria pulled up a photograph on her laptop. We'll need engagement photos. Professional ones. I've scheduled a session for Friday. You've thought of everything? I have to. She rubbed her temples, a rare gesture of vulnerability. Marcus met with the board yesterday. He's circulating rumors that I'm unstable, making poor decisions. The engagement announcement needs to counter that narrative. What kind of rumors? That I'm a workaholic with no personal life. That I'm incapable of maintaining relationships. That my judgment is compromised by isolation. Victoria's laugh was bitter. He's not entirely wrong. I am those things. But I'm also the person who tripled this company's value, and that should matter more. Ethan studied her, the dark circles under her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. When's the last time you slept? I don't remember. That's not healthy. Neither is losing everything I've built. She met his eyes. I know what I'm doing, Mr. Cole. Ethan, we're engaged now. You should probably use my first name. Something shifted in her expression. Ethan, then. She tested the name like unfamiliar territory. The wedding is in 2 weeks. Small ceremony at the courthouse, then a reception at the Grandview Hotel. 50 guests, mostly board members and key business associates. Your sister and daughter, obviously. No one from your side? I don't have family beyond Marcus, and inviting him would be... She paused. Complicated. What about friends? Victoria's silence was answer enough. Ethan felt an unexpected pang of sympathy for this woman who had everything except the things that actually mattered. The ceremony will be brief, she continued. Standard vows, nothing elaborate. Afterward, we'll need to appear affectionate for the cameras. Are you comfortable with that? Define affectionate. Hand-holding, standing close. Perhaps a kiss for the photographs. The clinical way she described intimacy should have been off-putting. Instead, it just felt sad. I can manage that. Good. I've also arranged for a stylist. You'll need a proper wardrobe for public appearances. What's wrong with my wardrobe? Victoria glanced at his jeans and worn sweater. Nothing for casual settings, but we'll be attending galas, charity events, board dinners. You'll need suits that fit properly. I have a suit. I'm sure you do. Her tone suggested otherwise. The stylist will be here Thursday. Just let him do his job. Ethan bristled at the implication, but swallowed his pride. This was part of the deal, becoming someone who looked like he belonged in her world. Fine. There's one more thing. Victoria pulled out another document. Marcus requested a meeting. He wants to congratulate us personally. That's suspicious. Extremely. But refusing would be worse. We'll meet him for lunch Saturday. Neutral location, public setting. He won't try anything overt. You don't sound convinced. I'm not. Marcus is patient and strategic. He'll be looking for weaknesses, inconsistencies. We need to be flawless. She stood, moving to the window beside him. Tell me about your wife. The question caught him off guard. Why? Because if we're going to be convincing, I need to understand who you were before, what you've lost, how you've changed. Victoria's reflection in the glass was almost gentle. I need to know what Marcus will use against us. Ethan's throat tightened. She was everything good in my life, kind, patient, funny. She made me want to be better than I was. How did she die? Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time they found it. She fought for 18 months, but he stopped, the words still razor sharp even after 2 years. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. It doesn't change anything. No, Victoria said quietly. It doesn't. She turned to face him. My father had a stroke, died at his desk reviewing quarterly reports. They found him the next morning. He was 58. That's young. He worked himself to death, literally. 80-hour weeks, constant stress, no balance between work and life. Her voice was flat, emotionless. Everyone said he was dedicated. I think he was just scared of being irrelevant. Is that why you work so hard? Victoria's smile was sharp. I work hard because if I don't, men like Marcus will take everything my father built and destroy it. But yes, perhaps there's some genetic predisposition towards self-destruction. They stood in silence, two people bound by contract and circumstance, sharing wounds in a penthouse tower. Outside, the city hummed its indifferent symphony. Lily seems happy here, Victoria said finally. She does. She's excited about the new school. She starts Monday. I've arranged for a car to take her each morning. The driver's name is Bernard, former military, impeccable record, good with children. You vetted our driver? I vet everyone who comes near my life. Occupational hazard. Victoria moved toward the door. It's late. You should get some sleep. What about you? I have work to finish. Victoria. He waited until she looked at him. You need to sleep too. You said it yourself. We need to be flawless. Can't do that if you collapse from exhaustion. For a moment he thought she'd argue. Then she nodded slowly. You're right. I'll finish this and go to bed. Promise? Don't push your luck, Ethan. But she was almost smiling when she said it. The engagement announcement hit the business pages Friday morning. By noon, it had spread to lifestyle sections and gossip blogs. Ethan's phone exploded with messages from people he hadn't heard from in years, all suddenly interested in his life. Jenny called 6 times before he finally answered. "Have you seen the internet?" she demanded. "I've been avoiding it." "Smart choice. They're calling you the janitor prince. There are memes, Ethan, actual memes about Cinderella stories and class warfare." "Great. And there are pictures of Victoria from some charity gala. She looks like she could cut glass with her cheekbones." "How are you not terrified of her?" Ethan glanced across the penthouse to where Victoria sat on the couch, laptop balanced on her knees, completely absorbed in work. She'd changed into casual clothes, yoga pants and an oversized sweater, and her hair was down. She looked nothing like the Ice Queen in the photographs. "She's not as scary as she seems," he said. "The internet disagrees, but they also think you're either incredibly lucky or incredibly stupid, so take that for what it's worth." "Thanks for the vote of confidence." "I'm serious, Ethan. This is a lot of attention. Are you ready for it?" He watched Victoria frown at her screen, absently tucking hair behind her ear. "I don't think I have a choice anymore." After the call, Ethan joined Victoria on the couch. "We're trending on social media." "I know, my PR team is monitoring it." She turned the laptop toward him. "Most of it is harmless curiosity, some speculation about gold digging, some commentary on class dynamics. Nothing we can't handle. There's an entire thread debating whether I'm using you for money or you're using me for normalcy." "They're both wrong. We're using each other for survival." Victoria closed the laptop. "How's Lily handling the attention?" "She doesn't know about it yet, but her school will on Monday. Kids talk." "I've already contacted Whitmore's headmaster. They have strict policies about protecting student privacy. No one will discuss your family situation on campus." "You really do think of everything." "I try to." She pulled her knees up, wrapping her arms around them, a gesture so unexpectedly young it made her seem fragile. "My mother left when I was 9. She couldn't handle my father's obsession with work. One day she just left. Divorce papers arrived a month later." Ethan didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry." "Marcus was 13. He took it harder than I did. Or maybe he just showed it more." Victoria rested her chin on her knees. "My father threw himself into the company after that, built it into what it is today. And I learned that work was safer than relationships. Work didn't leave. That's a lonely way to live. But predictable, controllable." She looked at him. "You think I'm cold?" "Sometimes. I am cold. It's easier that way." She stood abruptly. "I have some calls to make before the photographer arrives." Ethan watched her retreat to her study, recognizing the pattern. Whenever the conversation got too personal, Victoria disappeared behind work. He understood the impulse. He'd done the same thing after Sarah died, bearing grief in overtime shifts and exhaustion. The engagement photos were staged in the penthouse. The photographer, a cheerful woman named Diane, directed them into various poses. Stand by the window, look at each other, hold hands, smile like you're in love. "More natural," Diane called. "You're engaged, not at a funeral. Victoria, soften your expression. Ethan, step closer, like you actually want to touch her." Victoria's jaw tightened, but she complied. Ethan moved closer, his hand finding the small of her back. She stiffened momentarily, then relaxed into the pose. "Better," Diane said. "Now say something to each other, something that makes you smile." Ethan looked down at Victoria. "She compared us to a funeral." "I noticed." "Should we tell her we're more comfortable at funerals?" Victoria's laugh surprised both of them, genuine and unguarded. Diane's camera clicked rapidly. "Perfect. That's exactly what I need. Keep talking." They went through an hour of poses, gradually finding a rhythm that felt less forced. Victoria's hand in his arm around her shoulders. Their heads close together, staged intimacy that occasionally felt almost real. "Last shot," Diane said. "Kiss for the camera." They'd known this was coming. Victoria turned to face Ethan, her expression carefully neutral. "Quick and chaste," she murmured, "like a peck between acquaintances." "Romantic," Ethan said dryly. "You want romance, hire an actor." Technically, that's what you did. Her lips twitched. Technically, you're right. He leaned down. She rose on her toes. Their lips met briefly, perfunctorily, the kiss of two people checking an item off a list. The camera clicked. Lovely, Diane said. I think we got some great shots. After she left, Victoria poured herself a glass of wine. That wasn't so terrible. The kiss or the entire charade? Both, neither. She took a sip. You're better at this than I expected. At pretending? At making it look real. She studied him over the rim of her glass. You're a good liar, Ethan Cole. I'm a desperate father doing what I have to do. There's a difference. Is there? Victoria set down the glass. We tell ourselves stories to make the things we do acceptable. I'm fighting for my company. You're protecting your daughter. But at the end of the day, we're both just people who chose the easier wrong over the harder right. You think this is easier? Than being poor and powerless? Yes. Than being alone and vulnerable? Absolutely. She moved to the window, her silhouette dark against the glowing city. Don't misunderstand me. I'm grateful you agreed to this. But let's not pretend we're heroes. We're survivors. Sometimes that's all we can be. Saturday arrived with the weight of an impending storm. The lunch with Marcus was scheduled for 1 p.m. at Le Bernardin, a restaurant expensive enough that Ethan had only read about it in magazines. He put on one of the new suits the stylist had provided, charcoal gray, tailored to fit perfectly. In the mirror, he looked like someone else entirely. Victoria emerged from her room in a navy dress, her armor of choice. You clean up well. So do you. I always clean up well. It's one of my few consistent qualities. She handed him a small box. You'll need this. Inside was a wedding band, simple platinum, elegant. Ethan slid it on, the metal cool against his skin. It's temporary, Victoria said. We'll get proper rings before the ceremony. This is fine. It's a placeholder, like this entire arrangement. The drive to the restaurant was silent. Bernard navigated Manhattan traffic with military precision, while Ethan and Victoria sat in the back seat, preparing for battle. Remember, Victoria said quietly, Marcus will probe for weaknesses. Any hesitation, any contradiction between our stories, he'll notice and exploit it. What's he like? Charming when it suits him, ruthless when it doesn't. He's 3 years older than me, and he spent his entire life resenting that our father chose me as his successor. She smoothed her dress. He'll be pleasant today. That's when he's most dangerous. Marcus Hale was waiting at their table, standing as they approached. He was handsome in the way of men who'd never had to work for attention. Strong jaw, perfect hair, expensive suit. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Victoria, how wonderful to see you happy. He embraced his sister briefly, then turned to Ethan. And you must be the famous Ethan Cole, the man who captured my sister's heart. His handshake was firm to the point of aggression. Ethan met it with equal pressure. Marcus, Victoria's told me a lot about you. All good things, I hope. Marcus gestured to the table. Please, sit. I've taken the liberty of ordering champagne. We're celebrating, after all. The champagne arrived, a bottle that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent at the old apartment. Marcus poured with practiced ease. To new beginnings, he said, raising his glass, and to love conquering all obstacles. They drank. The champagne tasted like expensive bubbles and veiled threats. So tell me, Ethan, Marcus said, settling back in his chair, how does a maintenance worker end up engaged to one of the most powerful women in the city? It's quite the story. We met at work, started talking, found we had more in common than expected. How romantic, love among the filing cabinets and cleaning supplies. Marcus's smile sharpened. Though I have to admit I'm surprised. Victoria's never shown interest in dating anyone from outside her usual circles. Maybe I got tired of the usual circles, Victoria said coolly. They tend to be full of men who value connections over character. Ouch! Marcus pressed a hand to his chest in mock pain. Is that directed at anyone in particular? If the shoe fits. Children, please. Marcus's tone turned conciliatory. I didn't invite you here to fight. I genuinely want to understand this relationship. It's so sudden, so unexpected. You can understand my concern. Your concern? Victoria's voice could have frozen wine. Or your disappointment that I won't be single past my birthday? The mask slipped for a fraction of a second. Marcus's eyes went cold before the charm reasserted itself. I'm concerned for your well-being. This engagement came out of nowhere. No one knew you were even dating. We kept it private, for obvious reasons. What obvious reasons? Marcus looked between them. Unless there was something to hide. Or something to protect, Ethan said, jumping in. Victoria's life is under constant scrutiny. We wanted to see if what we had was real before making it public. And is it? Real? Ethan reached across the table, taking Victoria's hand. She didn't pull away. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't. Marcus watched the gesture with the attention of a jeweler examining a diamond for flaws. You know, Ethan, I did some research on you. Former accountant, widower, single father. You gave up a promising career to work maintenance. That's quite a fall from grace. I made choices based on what my daughter needed. Of course. Family first. I respect that. Marcus sipped his champagne. Though I have to wonder, what does Victoria get out of this arrangement, besides the obvious optics of dating someone so what? Victoria's voice was dangerous. Relatable. Normal. It's brilliant, actually. The powerful CEO with a heart, choosing love over status. The board will eat it up. You're suggesting this is a publicity stunt? Ethan kept his voice level despite the anger rising in his chest. I'm suggesting my sister is very good at strategy, and this engagement is extremely well timed given certain deadlines approaching. Victoria's hand tightened on Ethan's. Marcus, if you have an accusation to make it directly. No accusations, just observations. Marcus refilled his glass. I find it interesting that after years of showing zero interest in marriage, you suddenly find your soulmate, a month before your 40th birthday. What an incredible coincidence. Or incredible timing, Victoria said. Sometimes the universe provides what we need exactly when we need it. Does it? I prefer to think we create our own luck. Marcus turned his attention back to Ethan. Tell me, what attracted you to my sister? Was it her warm personality? Her nurturing nature? It was her honesty, Ethan said, the irony bitter on his tongue. She doesn't pretend to be something she's not. In a world full of people wearing masks, that's refreshing. Fascinating, because I've always thought Victoria was nothing but masks. Different ones for different occasions, but masks nonetheless. Marcus leaned forward. Which version did you fall in love with, I wonder? The real one, Ethan said firmly. The one she is when no one's watching. Victoria's eyes met his, something unreadable passing between them. Well, Marcus said, sitting back, I suppose time will tell. Marriage has a way of revealing people's true natures. I look forward to seeing how this plays out. The rest of lunch was a verbal chess match, Marcus probing with questions disguised as small talk, Victoria deflecting with precision. Ethan played his part, the devoted fiancé, all while feeling Marcus's gaze dissecting every word, every gesture. When they finally escaped to the car, Victoria's composure cracked slightly. That was worse than I expected. He knows. He suspects. It's not the same thing. She pulled out her phone, typing rapidly. But he'll be watching closely now. We can't afford any mistakes. Victoria. Ethan waited until she looked at him. What happens if he proves the marriage is fake? What are the actual consequences? She was quiet for a long moment. The board removes me. Marcus takes control. Everything my father built gets dismantled and sold for parts. And you? She paused. You lose the $3 million, plus potential legal consequences for fraud. We could both go to jail. It's unlikely, but possible. More likely, we'd be destroyed professionally and financially. You'd lose any chance of working in your field again. I'd lose everything. Ethan looked out at the city sliding past. No pressure then. No pressure at all. They rode in silence until Bernard pulled up to the building. In the elevator, Victoria sagged against the wall, exhaustion etched in every line of her face. Thank you, she said quietly, for handling Marcus. You were good. I just told the truth, mostly. The best lies are built on truth. She straightened as the elevator doors opened. We have 2 weeks until the wedding. I'll be working late most nights, board meetings, strategy sessions with legal. You'll need to manage things here. Lily's routine, household matters. I can do that. I know you can. Victoria stepped out, then turned back. Ethan, what you said at lunch about me being honest? That was kind, even if it wasn't entirely accurate. Wasn't it? I'm many things. Honest is rarely one of them. She walked to her study and closed the door, leaving Ethan alone in the too large living room of their too perfect prison. That night he found Lily on her window seat, knees pulled up, staring out at the city. Hey, sweetheart. What are you doing up? I couldn't sleep, too many lights. She gestured at the skyline. It's never dark here. Ethan sat beside her. Want me to get blackout curtains? No, I kind of like it. She was quiet for a moment. Daddy, do you love Victoria? The question hit like a fist to the chest. What makes you ask that? You're getting married. People who get married are supposed to love each other. They are. So do you? Ethan looked at his daughter's serious face, at Sarah's eyes and Lily's questioning gaze, and felt the weight of every lie pressing down. It's complicated, Lily. Adult relationships they're not always simple. But do you love her or not? How did he answer that? The truth was impossible. A lie felt like poison. I care about her very much, he said carefully, and I think she cares about us. That's enough for now. Mom used to say that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice you make every day. She was right. Is that what you're doing? Choosing? Yes. I'm choosing what's best for us, for our family. Lily leaned against him, small and warm and trusting. Okay. As long as we're together, I don't care where we live. Ethan wrapped his arm around her, throat tight. We'll always be together. That's a promise. Later, after tucking Lily into bed, Ethan found Victoria still in her study. She looked up when he knocked. She asked if I love you, he said. Victoria set down her pen. What did you tell her? That it's complicated, that adult relationships aren't simple. Diplomatic. She's 8. She deserves something closer to truth than we're giving everyone else. Ethan entered the room, closing the door. This is harder than I thought it would be, the lying, especially to her. Children are resilient. She'll be fine. Ooh, will she? We're teaching her that deception is acceptable, that love can be faked. What does that do to a kid? Victoria's expression was unreadable. It teaches her that survival sometimes requires compromise. That's not the worst lesson. That's a cynical way to raise a child. Better cynical than naive. She stood, moving to the window. My father used to say that life gives us choices between comfort and integrity. The lucky few get both. The rest of us have to decide which matters more. And you chose comfort. I chose survival. There's a difference. Victoria turned to face him. You did too, Ethan. Don't pretend otherwise. She was right. They were the same. Two people who'd made impossible choices and were living with the consequences. 2 weeks, Ethan said. Then it's official. Then it's official, Victoria agreed. After that, we just have to maintain the performance for 12 months. We can do that. Can we? We have to. The alternative is unacceptable. Ethan looked at this woman he barely knew, this stranger he was about to marry, and wondered if either of them would recognize themselves by the time this was over. The performance had begun, but somewhere along the way the lines between acting and reality were already starting to blur. And that terrified him more than any contract ever could. The wedding day arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of October morning that felt stolen from summer. Ethan stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time, wondering if convicted men felt this way before sentencing. The suit was perfect, tailored to fit like it had been made for someone else's life, which, he supposed, it had been. You look good, Daddy. Lily appeared in the doorway, already dressed in the pale blue dress Victoria had chosen for her. Like a prince. Just a regular guy getting married, sweetheart. To a queen. That makes you a prince. She twirled, the dress floating around her. Do I look okay? You look beautiful. Mom would be proud. Lily's smile faltered. Do you think she'd be mad? That you're marrying someone else? The question pierced him. Ethan knelt, taking his daughter's hands. Your mom wanted us to be happy. She made me promise to keep living, to give you a good life. I think she'd understand. But do you miss her? Every single day. The truth, at least, was easy. I'll always miss her, but that doesn't mean we stop moving forward. Lily hugged him tight. I won't forget her, I promise. Neither will I, baby. Neither will I. The courthouse ceremony was scheduled for 11. Jenny arrived at the penthouse at 9, her expression a complicated mix of happiness and concern. Last chance to run, she said, only half joking. Bit late for that. It's never too late until you sign the paperwork. She studied him carefully. Are you sure about this? Really sure? Ethan thought about the contract locked in Victoria's safe, about the money that would secure Lily's future, about the year of performance ahead. I'm sure. Because you love her, or because you need her? Does it matter? Jenny's eyes softened. Yeah, Ethan, it really does. Before he could respond, Victoria emerged from her bedroom. The dress was simple, cream-colored, knee-length, elegant without being ostentatious. Her hair was down, softer than Ethan had ever seen it. She looked beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. You look amazing, Jenny said, and the genuine warmth in her voice surprised all of them. Thank you. Victoria smoothed the dress self-consciously. I wasn't sure about the style. It's perfect. You both look perfect. Jenny pulled them together. Okay, picture time. Lily, come stand with them. They arranged themselves on the couch, Lily between them, playing family for the camera. Victoria's hand rested on Lily's shoulder, and something in the gesture looked almost natural. Smile like you mean it, Jenny called. This is supposed to be the happiest day of your lives. Ethan caught Victoria's eye, saw the same irony reflected back. They smiled dutifully. The courthouse was less romantic than Ethan had imagined marriage would be when he'd done this the first time. No flowers, no music, just efficient bureaucracy and a judge who'd performed 1,000 ceremonies exactly like this one. The reception room was small, occupied only by their tiny group, Jenny, Lily, and 2 witnesses Victoria had hired from her legal team. Judge Martinez was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and an air of having seen everything. She positioned them before her, Lily standing beside Jenny, both watching with rapt attention. Marriage, Judge Martinez began, is a legal contract, yes, but it's also a promise between 2 people to build something together, to support each other through whatever comes. She looked between Ethan and Victoria. Are you both prepared to make that commitment? Yes, Victoria said, her voice steady. Yes, Ethan echoed, the word tasting like ash. The vows were standard, impersonal. Ethan spoke them by rote, his mind elsewhere. Victoria's voice never wavered, each word delivered with the precision of a business presentation. When it came time for rings, Ethan slid the platinum band onto her finger, feeling the weight of pretense in the gesture. Then Victoria surprised him. The ring she placed on his hand wasn't the placeholder from before. It was custom-made, engraved on the inside with a date. Not today's date, but one from 3 months ago. The day we met, she murmured, barely audible. The detail was perfect. The kind of thing a woman in love would do. Marcus would notice if he ever saw it. The board would notice. Everyone would notice. But Ethan noticed something else. The slight tremor in Victoria's hands as she pushed the ring into place. The first crack in her armor he'd seen all day. By the power vested in me by the state of New York, Judge Martinez said, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss. This kiss was different from the one for the engagement photos. This one had witnesses, had legal weight, had permanence. Ethan leaned in. Victoria rose to meet him, and their lips touched in a kiss that was supposed to be for show, but somehow felt like something more. Something almost real. When they broke apart, Lily was clapping, Jenny was crying, and the witnesses were smiling politely. Judge Martinez handed them the marriage certificate. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Cole. Mrs. Cole. Victoria had taken his name. Another detail that made the performance more convincing. Another lie layered onto the foundation. The reception at the Grandview Hotel was everything the ceremony wasn't. Elaborate, expensive, carefully orchestrated. 50 guests filled the private ballroom, all power players from Victoria's world. Board members, investors, business associates. Ethan recognized faces from newspapers and magazine covers. Marcus arrived late, his entrance calculated for maximum attention. He found them during cocktail hour, champagne in hand, smiles sharp as broken glass. "Brother," he said, embracing Ethan with false warmth, "welcome to the family. I'd offer advice about marriage, but I've never managed to make one last myself." "Third time's the charm, though, right?" Victoria's tone was ice. "Is it? I lose track." Marcus raised his glass. "To the happy couple. May your union be everything you both deserve." The toast felt like a curse. Ethan drank anyway. Throughout the evening, they performed their roles flawlessly. Victoria's hand in his as they circulated through the crowd, his arm around her waist during the first dance, the way she leaned into him during toasts, the casual intimacy of longtime partners. "You're very good at this," she murmured during a lull. "At lying?" "At making people believe." "Maybe I'm not lying." The words surprised him even as he said them. Victoria's eyes searched his face. "Don't confuse performance with reality, Ethan. That's dangerous." Before he could respond, a board member approached, pulling Victoria into conversation about quarterly projections. Ethan found himself alone at the edge of the party, watching his new wife negotiate business on her wedding day. "She's something, isn't she?" A voice beside him. Robert Davidson, the attorney who'd reviewed the contract. "I've known Victoria for years. Never thought I'd see her married." "Why not?" "Too dedicated to the company. Too afraid of vulnerability." Davidson sipped his drink. "But you seem to bring out something different in her. Something softer." "You think so?" "I've watched her with you tonight, the way she looks at you when she thinks no one's paying attention. That's not performance, Mr. Cole. That's real." Ethan wanted to believe that, desperately wanted to believe that some part of this nightmare had genuine foundation. But Victoria's own words echoed, "Don't confuse performance with reality." The evening wore on. Speeches were made, toasts delivered, cake cut with practiced smiles. Through it all, Marcus watched from the shadows, his expression unreadable. Finally, mercifully, it ended. Bernard drove them back to the penthouse, Lily asleep in Ethan's arms, Jenny following in her own car to collect his daughter for the night. "Thought you two deserved a wedding night alone," Jenny said with a wink that made Ethan's stomach drop. After they left, the penthouse felt cavernous and silent. Victoria kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. "Thank God that's over. It went well. It went perfectly. Which means we're now under even more scrutiny." She poured herself a glass of wine. Marcus cornered 3 board members during dinner. I'm sure he was fishing for doubts. "Did he find any?" "Not that I could tell, but he's patient. He'll wait for us to slip." Victoria drank deeply. "We can't slip, Ethan. Not once in the next 12 months. So we just keep lying every day to everyone." Yes, that was the deal. Ethan loosened his tie, suddenly exhausted. "I'm going to bed." "Ethan," Victoria's voice stopped him. "Thank you for today, for playing your part so well. That's all this is, right? A part." Something flickered across her face. "Right. Just a part." He left her standing in the living room, silhouetted against the city lights, looking more alone than anyone should on their wedding night. The following week settled into uneasy routine. Ethan took Lily to school, managed household matters, learned to navigate Victoria's world of charity galas and business dinners. Victoria worked 16-hour days, came home exhausted, retreated to her study. They were married but lived like strangers, orbiting each other in careful distance. Then Marcus made his move. It happened during a board meeting Ethan wasn't supposed to know about. Victoria came home early, her face pale, hands shaking as she poured whiskey instead of wine. "He submitted a formal challenge to my position." Ethan looked up from helping Lily with homework. "What does that mean?" "It means he's convinced 3 board members to support a vote of no confidence. He claims the marriage is fraudulent, that I'm mentally unstable, that my judgment is compromised." She drank, grimaced. "The vote is in 2 weeks." "Can he do that?" "He can try. He needs 6 votes to succeed. He has 3 confirmed, maybe 4. The rest are uncertain. So we convince them the marriage is real." "How?" We barely look at each other outside public events. We sleep in separate rooms. We have no shared history, no genuine connection. Victoria set down the glass. Marcus has investigators, Ethan. He's been following us, documenting everything. He probably has photos proving we're strangers pretending to be married. Then we change the narrative. How? Ethan thought fast. We give them something real, something Marcus can't fake or dismiss, something that proves this marriage is genuine. Like what? Like me defending you publicly, like me showing the board who you really are beneath the corporate Ice Queen act. He stood, moving closer. Marcus is painting you as cold, calculating, incapable of real connection. We show them that's wrong. But it's not wrong. I am those things. You're also the woman who spent 3 hours researching schools for my daughter, who had a driver vetted because she wanted Lily to be safe, who took her name off the marriage certificate so Lily wouldn't feel like we were replacing her mother. Ethan took Victoria's hands. You're more than what Marcus sees. Let me show them that. Victoria's eyes were wide, vulnerable in a way he'd never seen. You do that? We're in this together, for better or worse. Those vows might have been for show, but the partnership is real. For a moment, she just stared at him. Then she pulled her hands away. I need to think. I need to plan our approach. Victoria, Thank you, Ethan, for the offer. But this is my fight. I'll handle it my way. She disappeared into her study, leaving Ethan alone with the realization that somewhere along the way, this had stopped being just about money. Somewhere in the performance, something real had taken root, and that terrified him more than any boardroom battle ever could. The next morning, Ethan woke to find Victoria already gone. A note on the kitchen counter. Early meeting, back tonight. Below it unexpectedly, thank you for yesterday. He spent the day researching board members, company history, every interview Victoria had ever given. By the time Lily came home from school, he had a plan forming. Daddy, is Victoria okay? Lily asked over dinner. She seems sad. She's dealing with some work problems. Can we help? The simple question crystallized everything. Maybe we can, sweetheart. How would you like to do something special for her? They spent the evening transforming the penthouse. Lily's idea. Make it feel like a real home instead of a showroom. They hung artwork Lily had made at school, rearranged furniture to be more welcoming, added photographs mostly of Lily, but a few of the three of them from recent weeks. She needs to know we're really a family, Lily said with the wisdom of 8-year-olds. Families have pictures everywhere. Victoria arrived home at 9, looking exhausted. She stopped in the doorway staring at the transformed space. What is all this? Home improvements, Ethan said. Lily's idea. Lily ran over, pulling Victoria to the wall of photographs. See? Now it looks like people actually live here, like we're a real family. Victoria's expression was unreadable as she studied the images. Wedding photos. Lily's first day at Whitmore. A candid shot of the three of them at breakfast, Victoria smiling at something Lily had said. When was this taken? Last week. Jenny stopped by and snapped it. Ethan moved beside them. We thought the place needed some personality. It's very different. Bad different? Victoria touched one of the frames gently. No, good different. It feels lived in. That's because we live here, Lily said matter-of-factly. All three of us. Together. Something in Victoria's face cracked. She knelt to Lily's height. Thank you for thinking of this. It's very thoughtful. We're family now. Families do thoughtful things. They do, don't they? Victoria's voice was soft, almost wondering. After Lily went to bed, Ethan found Victoria still standing by the photographs, a glass of wine in hand. I've been thinking about your offer, she said. About the board meeting. And? I want you there. When I present my defense, I want you beside me. She turned to face him. But I need you to understand. Marcus will attack you too. He'll try to discredit you, humiliate you, prove you're just a gold digger who married me for money. Let him try. You say that now. But when he's questioning your integrity in front of the most powerful people in the industry, when he's making you look like a fool, I've been poor, Victoria. I've been desperate. I've scrubbed toilets and cleaned up other people's messes just to keep my daughter fed. Marcus can't humiliate me worse than life already has. Ethan stepped closer. But what I won't tolerate is watching him destroy you with lies. So yes, I'll be there. And yes, I'll defend you. Not because of the contract, because it's the right thing to do. Victoria set down her wine, and for the first time since he'd known her, she looked uncertain. Why? Why what? Why do you care? The contract requires you to play the devoted husband in public. It doesn't require you to actually defend me. Ethan considered lying, maintaining the safe distance between them. But Lily's words echoed. Families do thoughtful things. Because somewhere in all this pretending, you've become more than a business arrangement. You've become someone I respect. He caught himself. Someone I don't want to see hurt. Ethan. His name was barely a whisper. This can't become real. Why not? Because in 11 months we divorce. Because this was always temporary. Because I can't. Her voice broke slightly. I can't afford to believe in something that isn't real. What if it is real? What if it became real without either of us planning it? Victoria shook her head, backing away. Please don't make this complicated. It's already complicated. We live together. We share meals, share space, share our lives. Lily loves you. Jenny trusts you. And I... Stop. She held up a hand. Just stop. We have a board meeting to survive first. Let's focus on that. The dismissal stung, but Ethan recognized it for what it was. Fear. Victoria Hale, who faced down corporate raiders and hostile takeovers without blinking, was terrified of something real. The week before the board meeting, Marcus escalated. Gossip sites ran stories questioning the marriage. Anonymous sources suggested Victoria had paid Ethan to marry her. Photographs appeared showing them leaving the building separately, living separate lives. He's building his case, Victoria said, scrolling through the articles, making it impossible for the board to ignore. Then we build ours. Ethan pulled out his phone. Starting now, we stop hiding. Over the next 7 days, they became the most visible couple in the city. Dinners at public restaurants, walks in Central Park, coffee shops and bookstores, always together, always touching. Hand-holding, casual kisses, the easy intimacy of genuine partners. It started as performance. But somewhere between staged photographs and scripted affection, something shifted. Victoria's laugh became real. Ethan's smiles weren't forced. They actually talked, about more than logistics and strategy. I was engaged once before, Victoria admitted during a late-night walk. 25, fresh out of business school. His name was David. My father approved, which should have been my first warning. What happened? He wanted me to quit working, have children, be the perfect corporate wife. I wanted to build empires. She smiled sadly. We lasted 4 months after the engagement before he gave me an ultimatum. Him or the company. You chose the company. I chose myself. The company was just the excuse. She looked at him. I've never regretted it until recently. Until now. Until I see what it's like to have someone actually care, not about my money or my position, just care. Ethan stopped walking, turning her to face him. Victoria, I know, we can't, but it's nice to imagine, isn't it? She touched his face gently. In another life, maybe we could have been real. But the tenderness in her voice nearly broke him. We are real. This is real. This is a performance that got out of hand. Is it? He pulled out his phone, showing her a photo from that afternoon. Them at a bookstore, Victoria laughing at something Lily had said. No cameras around, no audience, just a moment captured because it was real. Victoria stared at the image. We look happy. Because we are happy. At least I am. Ethan pocketed the phone. I know this wasn't supposed to happen. I know it complicates everything. But I can't pretend anymore that this is just business. Ethan, please. The board meeting is in 3 days. After that, we can... After that, what? Go back to being strangers? Live like roommates for 11 more months? He took her hands. I don't think I can do that. And I don't think you want to. What I want doesn't matter. It's the only thing that matters. They stood on a dark street corner, the city flowing around them, caught between performance and truth. Then Victoria did something that shattered every wall between them. She kissed him. Not for cameras, not for witnesses, just for them. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. That was a mistake. Was it? It has to be. Because if it's not, if this is real, then I have everything to lose. Or everything to gain. She shook her head, already retreating into familiar armor. We need to focus. The board meeting. That's what matters right now. But as they walked back to the penthouse in silence, Ethan knew the truth. They'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The performance had become real, and the board meeting would determine if that reality would destroy them both. The morning of the meeting arrived with cold rain, the city gray and unforgiving. Ethan dressed in his best suit, the one that made him look like he belonged in Victoria's world. She emerged from her room in battle armor, a charcoal suit that screamed power, hair pulled back severely, every inch the corporate warrior. "Ready?" she asked. "Ready." In the car, she handed him a folder. "This is everything Marcus plans to present. His team leaked it yesterday." Ethan scanned the documents, photographs of them living separately, financial analysis suggesting Ethan's motives, testimony from anonymous sources claiming the marriage was fraudulent. It was damning and comprehensive. He's thorough. He's desperate. He knows this is his only chance. Victoria's hands were steady, but Ethan saw the tension in her jaw. Whatever happens in that room, whatever he says about you, about us, don't react. Stay calm, stay professional. Let me handle it. I'm not staying silent if he attacks you. Ethan, we're partners. Remember? For better or worse. He took her hand. I'm not letting you face this alone. The boardroom was on the 72nd floor, all windows and power. 12 board members sat around a massive table, Marcus at one end, a chair waiting for Victoria at the other, a single chair beside hers for Ethan. The performance was about to begin. But this time, the stakes were real. And Ethan was done pretending. Marcus stood as they entered, his smile predatory. Victoria, Ethan, so glad you could join us. Please sit. The board members watched in silence as Victoria and Ethan took their seats. Ethan recognized most of them from the wedding, powerful men and women who'd smiled and toasted their marriage. Now their expressions were carefully neutral, waiting to see which way the wind would blow. Shall we begin? Marcus didn't wait for an answer. He pressed a button, and a screen descended from the ceiling. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to address serious concerns about our CEO's fitness to lead this company, concerns that center around her recent marriage and the decisions leading up to it. The first slide appeared, a timeline of Victoria and Ethan's relationship, or rather the lack of one. According to public records, Victoria Hale and Ethan Cole had no documented contact before 6 weeks ago. No shared social circles, no mutual friends, no evidence of any relationship whatsoever. Marcus advanced the slides. Then suddenly, they're living together, engaged, married, all in the space of a month, all conveniently before Victoria's 40th birthday and the share transfer clause in our father's will. The room remained silent. Victoria's face was impassive, but Ethan felt her tension radiating beside him. Now, I'm not one to judge rapid romance, Marcus continued smoothly, but when that romance directly benefits my sister to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars in retained shares, I think we're obligated to ask questions. He clicked to the next slide. Photographs of the penthouse, clearly taken with a telephoto lens. Separate bedrooms. Victoria leaving early in the morning, Ethan returning late at night. The visual evidence of two people sharing space but not lives. These photos were taken over the past 3 weeks. They show what appears to be a marriage of convenience, not love. Two people cohabiting but maintaining entirely separate existences. Marcus turned to the board. I believe my sister has entered into a fraudulent marriage to circumvent our father's will, and I believe her judgment is so compromised by desperation that she can no longer effectively lead this company. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One woman, Patricia Chen, the CFO, spoke up. These are serious allegations, Marcus. Do you have actual proof of fraud? I have a pattern of behavior that suggests deception. I have financial analysis showing Ethan Cole was facing bankruptcy before this marriage. I have testimony from Hale Industries employees who say they never saw any relationship developing. Marcus pulled out another document. And I have this, A prenuptial agreement so one-sided it suggests this is a business transaction, not a marriage. Victoria's hand tightened on the table. Ethan realized with sudden clarity that Marcus had somehow obtained their prenup, the contract that laid bare the transactional nature of their arrangement. The prenup includes clauses about separate residences, limited physical contact, and a specific end date with financial compensation. Marcus's voice dripped with false sympathy. This isn't a marriage contract, it's an employment agreement with a very specific job description. Make Victoria look married for 12 months. The murmurs around the table grew louder. Ethan saw doubt spreading across faces that had been neutral moments before. Marcus was winning. "Victoria," said James Morrison, the oldest board member, "perhaps you'd like to respond to these allegations?" Victoria stood slowly, her composure absolute. "Of course. Though I have to say I'm disappointed that this board would give credence to what amounts to a jealous brother's conspiracy theory." "Conspiracy?" Marcus's laugh was sharp. "I have evidence that you have photographs taken by investigators you hired to stalk your own sister. You have a prenuptial agreement that, yes, protects both parties in the event of divorce, as any responsible attorney would recommend. And you have speculation based on your own inability to imagine that someone might actually want to be with me for reasons other than money." Victoria's voice cut like a blade. "Let me be clear about something. My personal life is my own. Whether I married Ethan last month or last year, whether we had a long courtship or a short one, is irrelevant to my ability to run this company." "It's relevant when it suggests compromised judgment," Patricia interjected. "Marcus isn't wrong about the timing, Victoria. Your father's clause activates in 2 weeks. This marriage happened just in time to prevent that. Can you honestly say that's coincidence?" Victoria met the CFO's eyes steadily. "I can honestly say that finding someone who values me beyond my stock portfolio is rare in my world. When I found it, I wasn't going to wait for an arbitrary timeline to make it official." "But the prenup," Marcus started. "The prenup protects Ethan as much as it protects me. He has a young daughter to think about. I have assets to protect. We both went into this marriage with our eyes open about the practical realities." Victoria's composure never wavered. "Unless you're suggesting that having a prenuptial agreement is now grounds for removal as CEO?" The board members exchanged glances. Marcus's jaw tightened. "The prenup is just one piece of evidence. The real question is whether this board can trust a CEO who would enter into a sham marriage. It's not a sham." Everyone turned. Ethan had stood without thinking, the words escaping before he could stop them. Victoria looked at him with something like panic. "Ethan, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do." He faced the board, heart hammering. "Marcus is right about some things. We met recently. The relationship moved fast. The timing was convenient, but he's wrong about the most important thing. This marriage is real." "Mr. Cole," Marcus's voice was patronizing, "I understand you're trying to support your wife, but I'm not finished." Ethan cut him off, surprising himself with his own authority. "You want to know the truth about our marriage? Fine. Here it is. Victoria offered me a deal, $3 million to pretend to be her husband for a year, to help her keep the company her father built, the company she's dedicated her entire life to protecting." The room erupted, board members talking over each other, Marcus's triumphant smile, Patricia's shocked expression. Victoria had gone completely still, her face pale. Ethan raised his voice over the chaos. "She offered me that deal and I took it, because I was desperate, because I had a daughter to support and debts I couldn't pay, because I had no other options." He paused, letting the admission settle. But here's what Marcus's investigators and financial analysts and photographers didn't capture. What started as a transaction became something else. The room quieted. Even Marcus looked uncertain now. "I've spent the last 6 weeks living with Victoria, watching her work 16-hour days because she cares about every employee in this building, seeing her research schools for my daughter because she wanted Lily to have the best education possible, learning that beneath the corporate armor is someone who's been so focused on protecting her father's legacy that she forgot to build her own life." Ethan looked at Victoria, whose eyes were bright with unshed tears. "She offered me a business deal. But what we built is real. The partnership is real. The respect is real. And yes, the feelings are real." "How convenient," Marcus sneered. "Love developed right on schedule." "I have proof." Ethan pulled out his phone, advancing to the recording app. 2 weeks ago, Victoria's brother approached me privately. He offered me $5 million to divorce her immediately, to publicly claim she'd coerced me into marriage, to destroy her reputation and her position. Marcus's face went white. That's a lie. It's recorded. Ethan hit play. Marcus's voice filled the room, smooth and persuasive, outlining his offer. The amount. The terms. The explicit instruction to make Victoria look unstable and manipulative. I met you in the garage of this building, the recording continued. You said, and I quote, "My sister is so desperate to keep control that she'd marry her janitor. That makes her weak. Help me prove it, and I'll make you rich beyond your dreams." The board members stared at Marcus with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. Patricia stood, her voice cold. Marcus, is this true? It's taken out of context. Did you or did you not attempt to bribe Mr. Cole into committing perjury and fraud? Marcus's mouth opened and closed. I was conducting my own investigation. You were attempting to manufacture evidence. James Morrison's voice was grave. To suborn perjury. To manipulate this board through illegal means. And there's more, Ethan said quietly. He pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table to Patricia. Marcus has been embezzling from company accounts for the past 18 months. Small amounts hidden in operating expenses and consulting fees. Victoria discovered it 3 months ago, but needed time to build an airtight case before bringing it to the board. Victoria found her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. I didn't want to believe it. He's my brother, but the evidence is conclusive. Marcus has stolen approximately $800,000 from Hale Industries. The full forensic accounting is in that folder. Patricia opened it, her expression darkening as she read. She passed pages to other board members, the evidence circulating around the table. Marcus stood frozen, his carefully constructed attack crumbling around him. This is absurd, he managed. Those are legitimate business expenses. Payments to shell companies you control, Victoria said. Consulting fees for services never rendered. It's all documented, Marcus. Every transaction, every falsified receipt. I gave you chance after chance to come clean. Instead, you doubled down and tried to destroy me. The silence in the room was absolute. Marcus looked around at faces that had shifted from doubt to condemnation. His empire of lies had collapsed in minutes. You can't prove any of this would stand up in court, he said desperately. Actually, we can. A new voice from the doorway. Robert Davidson entered, followed by 2 people in FBI windbreakers. Mr. Hale, I'm Special Agent Rodriguez. We'd like to ask you some questions about financial irregularities at Hale Industries. The blood drained from Marcus's face. You called the FBI? I reported a crime, Victoria said quietly. What happens next is up to you. You can cooperate with the investigation, return what you've stolen, and resign from the board quietly. Or you can fight this and face criminal charges, your choice. Marcus looked at his sister with something like hatred. Then, slowly, the fight went out of him. I want my attorney. Of course. Agent Rodriguez stepped forward. Mr. Hale, if you'll come with us. As they led Marcus from the room, he paused beside Victoria. You always were Father's favorite. I hope it was worth it, choosing this company over your own family. You chose this, Marcus. Not me. Victoria's voice broke slightly. I would have given you anything except what wasn't mine to give. Then he was gone, leaving stunned silence in his wake. Patricia spoke first. Victoria, I think I speak for the entire board when I say we owe you an apology. We should never have doubted your integrity. You were doing your due diligence. That's your job. Victoria sank back into her chair, suddenly exhausted. I should have brought the embezzlement to you sooner, but he's my brother. I kept hoping he'd stop. What about the marriage? James asked, not unkindly. Mr. Cole's admission about the original arrangement is complicated, Ethan finished. Yes, it started as a contract, but contracts can evolve. People can change. What we have now is real, regardless of how it began. Patricia studied them both. Can you prove that? Not with recordings or documents, but with something that actually matters? Victoria looked at Ethan, and he saw in her eyes everything they'd been too afraid to say out loud. I don't know how to prove love, she said softly. I've spent my whole life dealing in facts and figures and concrete evidence, but what I feel for Ethan doesn't fit on a spreadsheet. Then just tell us, Patricia said gently. Forget the board, forget the company politics. Why did you marry him? Really? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was raw with honesty. Because he sees me. Not the CEO, not the company valuation, not the legacy I'm supposed to protect. He sees me. The woman who's terrified of being alone, who works too much because she doesn't know how else to matter, who forgot how to be human until an 8-year-old girl started hanging artwork in her sterile penthouse. She turned to Ethan. I married him because for the first time in my life, someone chose me. Not what I could give them, not what I represented, just me. And you? James asked Ethan. Why did you stay when you could have taken Marcus's bigger offer? Ethan thought about that kiss on the dark street corner, about Lily's laughter echoing through the penthouse, about Victoria falling asleep on the couch with her laptop, and him covering her with a blanket, and the soft smile she gave when she woke. Because somewhere between the contract and the performance, I fell in love with my wife, and no amount of money is worth walking away from that. The board members exchanged glances. Finally, Patricia smiled. I think that's all the proof we need. Victoria, you have our full support. The vote of no confidence is withdrawn. Relief flooded Victoria's face. Thank you. Though I do have one question, Patricia added. The prenup. Are you going to enforce it? Victoria looked at Ethan, and he saw the question behind the question. Are we going to stick to the 12-month plan? Are we going to divorce when the contract expires? Are we going to throw away something real for the sake of an agreement made when we were different people? No, Victoria said clearly. The prenup was written for a marriage that doesn't exist anymore. I think we need a new agreement, one based on partnership, not transaction. I can work with that, Ethan said, reaching for her hand. The meeting adjourned. Board members filed out, offering congratulations and support. Patricia lingered, pulling Victoria aside. For what it's worth, I'm glad you found him. You've been alone too long. So have you, Victoria pointed out. Patricia had been widowed 5 years earlier. Maybe we both needed to remember that life happens outside boardrooms. Patricia squeezed her arm. Take some time off. Enjoy your marriage. The company will survive without you for a few days. After everyone left, Ethan and Victoria stood alone in the empty boardroom. The city stretched out beneath them, indifferent to the battle that had just been won. You didn't have to do that, Victoria said. Admit to the contract. Risk your own reputation. Yes, I did. We're partners, remember? For better or worse. Those vows were supposed to be fake. Were they? Ethan pulled her closer. Because I meant every word, even when I thought I was just playing a part. Victoria's composure finally cracked. She buried her face against his chest, shoulders shaking with sobs she'd been holding back for weeks. Ethan held her, letting her release years of loneliness and fear and desperate control. I'm so tired, she whispered. I'm so tired of fighting alone. Then stop. You don't have to fight alone anymore. They stood there until the tears stopped, until Victoria pulled back and wiped her eyes, makeup smudged but genuine smile breaking through. I must look terrible. You look real. I like it. She laughed, watery but genuine. What happens now? Now? We go home. We tell Lily that the bad guy lost. We order pizza and watch whatever ridiculous movie she picks. We be a family. A real family? The realist. Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then showed Ethan the screen. A text from Jenny. Saw the news about Marcus. You two okay? Ethan typed a response. Better than okay. We're actually good. Jenny's reply was immediate. Good. Because Lily made you both a cake to celebrate beating the bad guy. Her words. Get home soon. They left the boardroom hand in hand, the battle won but the real work just beginning. Building something real from the ashes of pretense. Learning to trust when trust had always been a liability. Choosing love when control had always been safer. In the car, Victoria leaned against Ethan's shoulder. Thank you for the recording, for keeping evidence when Marcus approached you. Actually, I need to confess something about that. She sat up. What? Marcus never approached me. I made that recording myself, reading from a script. The whole thing was fabricated. Victoria stared at him in shock. You created false evidence? I created leverage. Marcus was dirty. We both knew it. But he's too smart to get caught easily. So I gave the board something they couldn't ignore, something that made them look closer at his real crimes. Ethan met her eyes. The embezzlement is real. The bribery was fiction, but it worked. Ethan, that's illegal, unethical? Probably both. But it saved you, saved us. Sometimes you have to fight dirty against dirty fighters. Victoria processed this for a long moment. Then, impossibly, she laughed. My God, you really have learned from me. Scared? Impressed. And yes, a little scared. She kissed him, soft and real. We're going to be terrible together. Or terrific, could go either way. They pulled up to the building as evening fell, the city lighting up around them. Upstairs, Lily was waiting with a lopsided cake that said Congratulations in crooked frosting letters. I helped make it myself, she announced proudly. Aunt Jenny said you guys won something important. We did, sweetheart. Ethan lifted her up. We won the right to keep being a family. We were always a family, Daddy. Families don't need to win anything. They just are. Victoria's eyes went bright again. She's right. We just are. They ate terrible cake and watched Lily's movie choice, something involving talking animals and improbable adventures. Ethan sat on the couch with his daughter on one side and his wife on the other, and thought about contracts that had become obsolete, performances that had become reality, and how sometimes the best things in life came from the most desperate places. Later, after Lily was asleep, Ethan and Victoria stood at their bedroom doors, still separate, still maintaining old patterns. I don't want separate rooms anymore, Victoria said quietly. Neither do I. I don't know how to do this. The real marriage thing. I've never been good at vulnerability. Neither have I. Not since Sarah. Ethan took her hand. But maybe we figure it out together. Make mistakes together. Build something new together. No more contracts? No more contracts. Just choices. Every day we choose each other. Or we don't. But it's real either way. Victoria pulled him toward her room. Their room now. I choose you, Ethan Cole. Not because a contract says to. Because I want to. I choose you too, Victoria Hale, even though you kept your name. Especially because I kept my name. You fell for me. Not some version of me that gave up everything to become someone's wife. True. Plus, Victoria Cole sounds weird. She laughed, and the sound was light and free. They fell into bed together, not with the passion of movie romance, but with the comfortable intimacy of two people who'd earned each other through fire, who'd fought battles together and come out scarred, but whole. Somewhere in the night, Victoria whispered, "What about the $3 million? What about it? The contract said you'd get paid when we divorced. We're not divorcing, so you never get the money." Ethan pulled her closer. I got something better. I got a family. I got a partner. I got a woman who's brilliant and fierce and occasionally terrifying in the best way. He kissed her forehead. The money was never the point. Not really. It was just the excuse I needed to take a chance on something impossible. I'm glad you did. Me too. 3 months later, they gathered at the courthouse again. Same judge, same small room, but this time the vows were different. We're already married, Victoria explained to Judge Martinez, but we want to do this right, with vows we actually mean. The judge smiled. I remember you two, the couple who looked terrified at their own wedding. You look different now. We are different now, Ethan said, holding Victoria's hand. They'd written their own vows this time. No standard script, no legal language, just truth. Victoria spoke first, her voice steady but warm. Ethan, when you agreed to marry me, you thought you were making a practical choice, a transaction to save your daughter's future. But you gave me something I'd stopped believing in, the possibility of being loved for who I am, not what I represent. You taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness, that family is more important than legacy, that some risks are worth taking. She paused, blinking back tears. I promise to choose you every day, Not because a contract says to, but because I want to. Because you make me better. Because loving you is the first truly honest thing I've done in years. Ethan's own throat was tight. Victoria, you offered me money to pretend to be your husband, but you gave me something money can't buy, purpose beyond survival. You showed Lily what strength looks like. You showed me that it's okay to accept help, to lean on someone, to build something new from broken pieces. He squeezed her hand. I promise to be your partner in all things, to support your ambitions even when they scare me, to call you out when you're working too hard, and to back you up when you need to fight, to love you for exactly who you are, complicated, brilliant, occasionally impossible, and absolutely perfect. Judge Martinez wiped her own eyes. I now pronounce you once again husband and wife, though I think this time you actually mean it. They kissed to applause from their small audience. Jenny, Lily, Patricia, Robert Davidson, and a handful of friends they'd made together in the past months. Real friends, real family, real life. At the reception afterward, smaller, more intimate than the first, Lily gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying. When Daddy first told me about Victoria, I was worried. I thought nobody could be as good as Mommy was, and I was right. Victoria isn't like Mommy. She's like Victoria, and that's exactly what we needed. Lily raised her juice box. To Victoria, who lets me hang my artwork everywhere and who's teaching me that girls can do anything, and to Daddy, who's finally smiling again, I love you both. Place. Later, as they danced, Victoria asked, Any regrets? About which part? The contract, the lies, the fake marriage that became real? All of it. Ethan thought about that first day in her office, about the contract that had seemed like salvation and prison combined, about the performance that had consumed them both, about the moment when pretending had stopped and living had begun. No regrets. Everything we went through brought us here. I wouldn't change any of it. Even Marcus? Especially Marcus. He gave us a common enemy. Nothing bonds people like fighting the same battle. Victoria laughed. He was released last week, plea deal, probation, and restitution. He's forbidden from any involvement with Hale Industries. How do you feel about that? Sad, relieved, guilty, all of it. She rested her head against his shoulder. He's my brother. Part of me will always love him, even though I can't trust him anymore. Family's complicated. It is, but it's also worth fighting for. You taught me that. They swayed together, two people who'd started as strangers, become partners by contract, and evolved into something neither had expected, something real and messy and beautiful. A year after that first courthouse ceremony, Ethan woke in their shared bedroom to find Victoria already awake, watching him with an expression he'd learned to recognize as love. What? He mumbled, still half asleep. Just thinking about how different this is from a year ago, when we could barely stand to be in the same room. We've come a long way from separate bedrooms and polite distance. We have. She traced his face gently. The original contract expired yesterday. Did you realize? He had. The 12-month mark had passed quietly, unremarked upon. I noticed. We should probably destroy it, the document. It feels wrong to have it sitting in a safe when everything in it became obsolete months ago. Agreed. Ethan pulled her closer. Though maybe we keep a copy. To remember where we started. Why would we want to remember that? Because it makes where we are now even better. We could have kept it transactional. We could have stayed distant, but we chose this instead. Every day, we choose this. Victoria kissed him, slow and deep. Best choice I ever made. Second best, Ethan corrected. The best was hiring that janitor for facilities maintenance 18 months ago. Technically, I didn't hire you. HR did. Even better, it was fate. I don't believe in fate. Then call it incredible luck. I'll call it the right person, right place, wrong circumstances that became exactly right. They lay together as morning light filled the room, talking about nothing and everything. Lily burst in at 7, launching herself onto the bed with the energy only 9-year-olds possessed. It's Saturday? Can we go to the park? And maybe the science museum? And can I invite my friend Maya? All of that sounds perfect, Victoria said, pulling Lily between them. But first, breakfast. What should we make? Pancakes, the kind Daddy makes with chocolate chips. As they moved to the kitchen together, his family, his home, his impossible reality, Ethan thought about the man he'd been a year ago. Desperate, drowning, willing to sell his integrity for survival. That man would never have believed this was possible. A partnership built on respect and challenge, and genuine affection. A daughter who thrived, a wife who'd learned to trust, a life that felt full instead of empty. The contract had promised $3 million and 12 months of performance. What it delivered was something infinitely more valuable, the chance to build something real from an impossible foundation. Victoria caught his eye across the kitchen, flour on her nose from Lily's enthusiastic mixing, and smiled. Not the corporate mask smile, not the careful public expression, just genuine joy. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I got the better end of this deal." "You definitely didn't. I got you and Lily. That's priceless." "Then we both won." "We did, didn't we?" She laughed. "Against all odds, against every logical prediction, against Marcus's best efforts, we actually won." Lily looked up from her mixing bowl. "Of course we won. We're a team. Teams always win when they work together." "Can't argue with that logic," Ethan said. They made pancakes together, the three of them, in a kitchen that had once felt like a showroom and now felt like home. Outside, the city carried on its endless motion. But inside, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The contract was dead. The performance was over. The marriage was real. And Ethan Cole, former janitor turned husband turned partner turned family man, had never been happier. Sometimes the best things in life came from the most desperate places. Sometimes transactions became truth. Sometimes contracts became love stories. And sometimes, just sometimes, the impossible became exactly right.